ground was shaking. Private First Class Eddie Nakamura pressed his face into the volcanic soil and felt the vibration crawl through the earth and into his bones. At first, his brain refused to accept what his body already knew. It was not artillery. It was not naval bombardment. It was heavier, slower, rhythmic, alive, tank tracks. Each vibration came closer, compressing the ground with mechanical certainty. Eddie lifted his head slightly, just enough to see down the road descending from the hills above the Saipan beachhead. At first, there was nothing, then dust, then shapes, then steel, Japanese tanks, not 3, not 5, dozens. The column stretched deep into the haze, engines rumbling, tracks grinding across hardened volcanic terrain. Type 97 medium tanks, Type 95 light tanks weaving between them, steel turrets rotating, machine guns scanning, 44 tanks in total. The 9th Tank Regiment, the pride of Japanese armored forces on Saipan. Their objective was simple: break through the marine defensive perimeter, reach the beach, destroy landing positions, push the Americans back into the ocean before their armor could unload. If they succeeded, the invasion would collapse. If they failed, the island was lost. Eddie tightened his grip on his M1 Garand. 32 rounds, enough to fight infantry, worthless against armor. He felt something else rising in his chest. Not panic, not yet, something colder, understanding, because tanks meant death that could not be stopped with courage alone. Behind him, a voice cut through the tension. "Get your heads down and keep them down." Gunnery Sergeant Jack Reeves. Eddie turned. Behind Reeves stood the strangest weapon on the entire beach. A 3-inch naval gun, mounted on an awkward wheeled carriage, sandbags piled around its base, metal scarred by age, paint chipped and faded by salt and sun. It did not belong here. It belonged on a ship, or in a museum. The Marines had mocked it when they first saw it. They called it the lawn ornament. Logistics officers had argued against bringing it. Too heavy, too slow, too obsolete, too useless, but Reeves had insisted. Because Reeves understood something others did not. Steel did not care about opinions. Armor-piercing shells did not care about age. 6 months earlier, those guns had been sitting abandoned in a Pearl Harbor supply depot. Coastal defense relics from an earlier war. Forgotten. When invasion planners studied Saipan's beaches, they saw a problem. American tanks would take hours to land. Japanese counterattack could come immediately. Infantry would face armor alone. Someone suggested the old naval guns. Most commanders laughed. Reeves did not. He had spent 15 years working naval artillery. He knew what those guns could do. Armor-piercing rounds designed to penetrate destroyer hulls would pass through Japanese tank armor effortlessly. He volunteered immediately. Now, standing behind the gun, Reeves watched the approaching column. Range 1,200 yards. The tanks moved confidently. They expected no resistance capable of stopping them. Reeves spoke calmly. Load armor-piercing. Corporal Danny Whitfield lifted the shell. 13 pounds of hardened steel. He slid it into the breech. Locked. Ready. Reeves leaned into the sight. The lead tank grew larger. Closer. Closer. He squeezed the trigger. The gun roared. Not a sharp crack. A deep, violent boom that rolled across the beach like thunder. The recoil slammed the carriage backward, wheels digging into volcanic soil. The shell crossed the distance in just over a second. It struck the lead tank beneath the turret ring. Penetration was immediate. The shell punched through armor, ricocheted inside, ignited ammunition. The turret lifted off the hull in a column of fire. The tank rolled forward briefly before stopping dead. The Japanese column froze. They had expected infantry resistance. They had not expected to lose a tank instantly. Reload. Boom. Second tank destroyed. Boom. Third tank immobilized. Boom. Fourth tank erupted in flame. The advance slowed. Confusion spread. Tank commanders shouted orders. Turrets rotated, searching for the source. Reeves kept firing. Boom, boom, boom. Steel burned. Smoke filled the road. The column began to stall. If you're watching and want more real battlefield stories told in cinematic detail, subscribe now and enable notifications. These stories survive because people choose to remember them. The Japanese adapted quickly. They spotted the muzzle flash. Turrets rotated toward Reeves' gun. A shell slammed into the sandbags nearby. Sand exploded into the air. Another shell passed overhead. Whitfield hesitated. Reeves shouted, "Keep firing." Boom, 10 tanks destroyed, 12, 15. The road became a graveyard of burning armor. Japanese crews realized they were trapped. Forward movement meant death. Stopping meant death. Reversing created chaos. Then the gun jammed. Whitfield pulled the breech lever. Nothing, the casing stuck. The mechanism seized. Breech jam. Reeves looked at the tanks, 600 yards away. Closing, he grabbed a pry bar, forced it into the mechanism, pulled, metal screamed, nothing, 400 yards, he pulled again. The casing shifted slightly, 300 yards, a tank turret aligned toward them. Reeves pulled one final time, the casing popped free. Whitfield reached for armor-piercing ammunition. His hand hit empty space. He froze. "Sard," Reeves looked. The crate was empty. Armor-piercing ammunition was gone. 8 tanks still advancing. Nothing left to penetrate armor, except star shells, illumination rounds, magnesium flares, not designed to destroy tanks, designed to light battlefields. Whitfield hesitated. Reeves did not. Load it. The shell locked, 200 yards. Reeves fired. The shell struck the tank. Magnesium ignited instantly, 3,000 degrees Celsius, hot enough to melt steel. The turret glowed, then softened, then melted. The tank became a furnace. Inside, the crew had no escape. Another shell. Another tank burned. Another. The battlefield became chaos. Japanese crews abandoned vehicles. Armor could not protect against heat that turned steel liquid. Reeves' gun glowed from extreme temperature. Paint blistered. Metal warped. Whitfield wrapped his hands in cloth to continue loading. Reeves physically forced the breech closed. Every shot risked destroying the gun. Every shot risked killing them. But he kept firing, because stopping meant death. The Japanese column broke. The surviving tanks reversed. Engines screaming, retreating. The attack collapsed. Silence fell. 20 tanks destroyed. The largest armored assault of the Pacific War had been stopped by one obsolete gun and one Marine who refused to stop firing it. The barrel was ruined. Mechanisms warped beyond repair. The lawn ornament would never fire again, but it had done its job. The next day, General Holland Smith inspected the battlefield. He stood before the destroyed tanks, then looked at Reeves. "They told me this gun was obsolete," Reeves replied quietly. "They told me that too, sir." Smith nodded. "They were wrong." Reeves received the Navy Cross. His battery received commendation, but the deeper lesson was not about equipment, it was about mindset. Weapons matter, training matters, technology matters, but none of it matters without the will to fight. Reeves did not win because he had the best weapon. He won because he refused to accept defeat. He adapted, improvised, acted. The Japanese never attempted another armored breakthrough at Saipan. The beachhead held. The invasion continued. Victory moved forward. History remembers massive battles, massive armies, massive weapons. But sometimes history turns on a single gun, a single crew, a single decision to keep firing, and a Marine who refused to quit. Which part of this story stayed with you?